to another. Sorry, let's start this all over again. And welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, WIZE, and I'm excited. My next guest is an entrepreneur who's tearing the landscaping business on its head. Welcome to the show, Bryan Clayton.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. The pleasure's all mine. So let's just jump right into this. So can you share your inspiration behind finding GreenPal and its mission?
Yeah. So I think when you are pouring your life and your soul into a business, I think it can be helpful to have authenticity as a competitive advantage. I think it can be helpful to be doing something that you are passionate about. I'm not passionate about lawn mowing. I hate mowing the yard. I hate the smell of freshly cut grass. But my first business was a lawn care company. I started mowing grass in high school as a way to make extra cash. And for me, that provided me with an opportunity to start a business, own a business, and to take myself places in life that I never would have been able to do otherwise. Having my own little business allowed me to learn things about leadership and management and organization and sales and marketing and copywriting and all these things. And little by little, I grew that lawn mowing business over a 15-year period of time to around 150 employees and eventually getting it to around $10 million a year in sales at one of the bigger landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee. And I began to become passionate about business, about building a business, about leadership, about growing and evolving and taking on challenges you never would do otherwise. And I sold that company. And so when I sold that business, I didn't think this was going to happen, but I became almost like depressed because I didn't have a mission anymore. I didn't have any reason to get out of bed in the morning. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have a project. And so I started GreenPal because I had an idea that GreenPal should exist. I had an idea that somebody was going to build a platform like Uber or Airbnb, but for this industry that I knew. And I also knew that it was really hard to make a living in this industry. It's really hard to make a living in the lawn mowing business. So I thought small business owners in this industry need a place to plug into, a place where they can get customers, a place where they can grow their business. And so that kind of became my passion and became my mission to build a platform that made it a lot easier to make six figures a year mowing yards and offered a nice convenience to the mass market. And that became my passion, became my life's purpose, really. And so now GreenPal is a 10-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at this for a little over a decade. And now it's the nation's largest network of lawn care services that you can hire from your smartphone. And around 300,000 people use it every week to get lawn mowing.
And is it how many states is it in all states or?
Yeah, so we started off just in Tennessee, just in Nashville, Tennessee, where I live. Spent 4 years in Nashville figuring out how to make it work, figuring out how to when we pushed a button to get quotes that somebody actually quoted, and figured out how to make the payment system work and the review system, and everything flows smoothly. And so it was really hard those first 4 or 5 years because I wanted it to be nationwide. And then as we figured it out, we began to roll it out into other cities. Took us like another year for our second city, and then by year 6 or 7, we were in half a dozen cities. And then after we started figuring it out, we started rolling it out really quick. So now we're in every major city in the United States, really any city over 100,000 people, and we're in every state. So we're nationwide in the United States, and all soon to be Canada, UK, and Australia.
Awesome. So what are some of the key features that sets GreenPal apart in the lawn care marketplace?
Yeah, so normally if you are a homeowner or you rent a house, you've got a lawn and maybe you mow it yourself, but that's becoming less and less the case. People are looking for convenience. People want to order their food to be delivered by DoorDash. They want to order their groceries to be delivered by Instacart. And the lawn is no different. People are looking to get this done as easy as possible. And so how do you normally do that? Well, you would ask friends and family for recommendations, and maybe you might hire somebody and maybe they show up for a few mowings and then they just drop off the face of the earth. Like the case of the disappearing lawn guy, it happens a lot. And so And so that's something that homeowners have to deal with a lot is wrangling different lawn care services. But maybe you don't even get that far. Maybe you just go down the list on Craigslist or Yelp or Facebook or Thumbtack or Angie's List, and you just call and you dial for dollars, and maybe you'll get a few people to call back. Maybe you might even get a quote, but it's hard to get somebody to come out and do this chore for you. GreenPal is the only way to pop your address in. You'll get 5 quotes back in less than 60 seconds for lawn mowing services nearby you. And then you can read reviews that other people have said. You can look at how often they show up on time, how often do they get hired for a second and third mowing. And then you can make your best decision off those 5 quotes based on price, reliability, and reviews as to who you want to work with. And it's the only way to do that. There is no other service that does that. And so we really don't have a direct competitor that does exactly what we do. But it's not who you compete with, it's what you compete with. And so we still compete with people doing it the old way, maybe people mowing the yard themselves, or people just not mowing the yard, letting it grow 4 feet tall and getting a letter from the city. So we're still competing with like the status quo of how people normally do this. We're kind of where food delivery was in 2009. In 2009, you wouldn't use a service to get your food delivered. Or you wouldn't use an online service to get your food delivered. You would call the restaurant. They may send a delivery driver out. And there was Grubhub and maybe one other service, but nobody knew to use these services. That's kind of where GreenPal is today with getting home services done through a smartphone, through your app.
Yeah, honestly, because me personally, I have a guy who cuts my lawn, and he was actually cutting my neighbor's lawn, and I was like, "Oh, are you still picking up clients?" And he's like, "Yeah." So that's how I got my lawn.
A lot of times that works out, and if that's the case, treat that guy like gold.
I got a little bit of love for him.
Yeah. Don't be. You got to think. It's kind of funny how bad these service providers are treated. Every customer thinks they're the only customer. The American consumer has really gotten to be difficult to deal with in the last 10, 15 years. The Karens of the world, if you will. And so, those are the folks that usually find themselves a service provider a lot of times. And so our service is there to help them out. But maybe that guy goes out of business, or maybe he retires, or maybe he downsizes his business. Then you're stuck having to find somebody. Yeah. But if you've got somebody who's good, treat them like gold, because it's hard to get hooked up with a good, reliable service.
I know, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. So can you discuss the technological innovations that power GreenPal's platform?
Yeah, so we started off just as a website. We started off in 2013. None of my 2 co-founders and I did not know how to write software. We did not know how to code. We had never built a website before. And so we kind of taught ourselves how to code, taught ourselves how to write software as we were building the website. And it was a really horrible, hard to use website, and it barely worked on mobile. And you kind of had to be in front of a desktop computer to use it. And it was a really hard, clunky experience, but we got that out the door, and we were able to validate if the idea worked, if people wanted to use a service like this. And we spent a year doing that. And then as time went on, we picked up 100 customers, and then we grew that to eventually 1,000 customers. And we began to invest in a development team and building a team of people around my co-founders and I to help us make the website better. And then eventually build a mobile app for the App Store, and then one for the Android store. And then we developed a specific app for homeowners and one for vendors. So now we have 4 apps that we have to maintain. And so it's a website and mobile app for homeowners, and a mobile app for vendors in the App Store and Play Store. And that enables the consumer to order services, enables the vendor to operate their business. And then on the back end, kind of behind the scenes, we're doing all sorts of things like scheduling, routing, handling payments, securely handling credit cards, securely handling bank deposits, making sure vendors get paid on time, making sure that, and we're also making sure that homeowners get service on time. And we're kind of crunching all of this data, and we have the systems in place to make sure that everything runs smoothly, so nobody has to do this stuff manually anymore.
And that sounds like it's an amazing app, because one, now the the service provider doesn't have to worry about getting paid, especially if you're helping them take care of it. If they can pay, can they pay through the app?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's one of the main, I guess you could say, points of the value proposition for vendors. The main reason why lawn care professionals come to the app and use the app is to get new customers. They get as many as they want and as many as they can handle, and then to get paid very quickly because the lawn guy is always the last to get paid. Also, it's kind of funny. One of the main problems with lawn care services is they don't have enough time to do bookkeeping. And so they forget to mail an invoice. They forget to keep track of who owes them what. So they end up like going out of business because they're doing work for free. It's our platform's job to make sure that, okay, you're scheduled every other Thursday. As soon as you get done, upload a photo of the work. We send it to the homeowner. They approve it. If they don't do anything within 24 hours, their card on file is billed for you, and then you're paid. So within 24 hours of every job, they're paid for the work they do, so long as everything was done properly. And that's a big value add, because if not, they don't have to go chasing money all over town. They don't have to nag their customers. They don't have to have accounts receivable. Like, when I was running a lawn mowing business, I had accounts receivable 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. I had a big number of people that owed me money for 120 days. Well, the pros that run their business on GreenPal don't have that. They don't have to worry about any of that. They just show up, do a good job, and then everything else is handled.
Okay. So what strategies have been most effective in scaling GreenPal's user base and revenue?
There's a saying that first-time founders, meaning the first time you start a business, you worry about product, and you worry about the business, and you worry about like let's say you start a restaurant. The first time a founder starts a restaurant, they worry about the food, the product. What's the product taste like? What's the food taste like? And that's important. But the second time founder worries about distribution, worries about sales, marketing. So in the case of a restaurant, the second time restaurateur understands that food quality and product is important, but he or she knows that what's even more important is how are we going to get the word out? How are we going to market this thing? How are we going to get this in the hands of people that need it? And that's how it was with GreenPal. Even though I had built and sold a small business, I was still kind of a first-time founder because I had never started a technology company before. And so I threw all of my heart and soul into making the best, cleanest product that I could make, the best user interface that I could make for people to hire a lawn care service. And then I realized, like, man, that was all hard, but none of it even matters because nobody knows about this thing. And that the hard thing is actually getting people to use the app, to know about the app, to try it out when they need it. And so then I started to realize, man, this is going to be twice as hard as I thought. And so we started experimenting with every marketing channel we could get our hands on, Facebook ads, Google ads, Twitter ads, Pinterest ads, radio, TV, print, billboards. We did everything. We tried everything. Flyers. We passed out 200,000 flyers all over Nashville. And after we tried every single one of these and experimented with every single one of these, we realized that there was only one channel that really worked in terms of effort in and reward back, ROI. And that was Google organic search. So just good old fashioned lawn mowing service nearby me, or lawn care Lincoln, Nebraska, or lawn mowing service in Chicago, Illinois, wherever you live. And then we started to understand, man, that's a lot harder than even building the product was. Like, we got to do all these things. We got to write this content. We got to build these backlinks. We got to get our name in the press. We got to do all these technical things to the website. And it's like, man, we spend all this work building this website, this app, and all of this stuff is going to be twice as hard. But we just started really, really small, started building content for lawn mowing services around Nashville. And not even just Nashville, not because we couldn't compete there, all of the bedroom communities around Nashville, and started to rank for those types of searches, and just built it up from there. And then the next thing we knew, we were the best marketed lawn care service platform or option to get your lawn mowed in the middle Tennessee area. And then after time went on, we started launching new cities. We started to repeat that for every single city and town in the United States. So now that's how we get 60-70% of people that use the app, is they just find us with a good old fashioned Google search. Now it's taken us a decade to get good at that and to get some momentum behind that, but that's the only way we get the word out.
Yeah, but like you said, it's also like you guys didn't know coding. You guys learned a lot of the stuff that you're doing, and yes, you built a business before, but you weren't really into marketing.
Right.
So how was it that you guys did you guys dive right into learning about marketing? Did you hire somebody eventually? But what was the beginning steps to helping market the app?
Yeah, it's like when you start a business and you really want to see it succeed, which my two co-founders and I did. None of us had the skills to do what we needed to do, but all three of us had a chip on our shoulder. We really wanted to see this thing exist. We wanted to prove to ourselves and to our friends and family that we could do it. And we wanted to build something that was going to touch the mass market. And so that's all I was looking for in co-founders. I was looking for somebody who I knew had a chip on their shoulder, who wanted to be something more in life, because I figured everything else we could learn, especially nowadays with YouTube University and every online class platform. You can learn anything you have to learn. When I was starting my first business 20 years ago, that was not the case. You could mail out a check for some cassette tapes, maybe.
Yeah.
Or you could go to the damn library, literally, and try to find a book. But there wasn't access to information from people who have already done what it is you're trying to do, the way that there is today. And so that's what we did. I personally managed my time in three buckets, then and now. And so the three buckets, how I managed my time, and I try to get my co-founders to do the same thing, was there was one bucket I was working in the business. So I was just making sure that customers were getting service, that things were working, that the terrible app that we just built was working, just making sure that the thing worked at a basic level. And then the second bucket is I was working on the business. I was trying to figure out what is the one thing we need to be working on. What does the marketing system look like? Or what is the quoting system, or what is the customer service system look like? Or what does the customer satisfaction, like follow-up system look like? Employee training system, whatever it was I needed to work on at that moment, I would work on the business. I would try to do that 2 or 3 days a week. So 4 or 5 days a week in the business, 2 or 3 days a week on the business. And then I would try to do at least 1 day a week working on myself. So what do I need to be learning to help get this thing to the next level? What is the one thing that we are lacking, that we don't know how to do? We don't have the money to hire out, or we don't even know how to do it, so we can't delegate it. I think before you delegate anything, you need to have some basic acumen around it, some basic understanding for how it works. And so in the early days, that was, okay, well, how do you build a damn website? Well, all right, we got to go learn HTML and JavaScript and CSS. How do you build an app? Well, somewhat one of us is going to have to learn Angular and React and all of these web development platforms. Okay. We got to get the word out. Okay. We're going to have to learn SEO. I'm going to have to read every single SEO blog I can get my hands on. I'm going to have to go to YouTube University and watch hundreds of hours of content, and then figure out who's good and figure out who's really talking my language, and then pay for their stuff because they got some premium stuff. And just doing that for hours and hours and hours. And so, as you can tell with those three buckets, it's a 7-day-a-week thing. It's Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, day and night. And that, to invent something new from scratch, that's going to be what's required for the first 5 years.
Yeah, it's and how you talk about information is out there to help you grow. That's how I've been able to help grow my podcast, is learn about SEOs, is learning how to create my own thumbnails, how to use certain programs to cut time in helping me get my content out. Like
Right.
like this year alone, I've learned how to automate a little bit better, and it's helped my podcast grow because now instead of focusing on things that it's consuming a lot of time, I'm automating it, and it's helping me now spend time on actually improving my content.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that example. It's, you know, working in, as far as your podcast is concerned, working in the podcast, doing this interview right now, scheduling an interview, maybe sending an email to somebody you thought was cool and see if they want to come on, working in the podcast. The next thing, okay, I got to work on the podcast. Okay, well, this last thumbnail that I did, how did it perform? And what is my strategy around identifying how to improve that continuously, and what is my strategy around making sure guests help me find more guests. I'm doing a series of emails, and so that's working on the podcast. And then third thing, working on myself. Maybe I'm reading a book by Oprah Winfrey about interviewing, and I think she's written a couple books, and there's been several books written about her. She's one of the best interviewers of all time, and I'm working on myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm working on myself, becoming a better interviewer. So if you work those three buckets and hold yourself accountable to spend every week working, at different kind of at different lengths, because in the early days it's going to be skewed towards in and then on and then on yourself. And then as time goes on, you can flip it. You can work on yourself 3-4 days a week. That's the goal.
Yeah, no, it's what really was the first year and a half. It was hard because I was still learning the in and outs of it. And so when I learned the system and started implementing different things and helping, like with every system, there's always a beginning, but you're always adapting new ideas and like for me, I've adopted new tools to help me out.
Right. Totally.
It's been, yeah, I started a system and I'm always adding to the system to help me improve.
Yes, it's never over.
Yeah, it's always evolving. It's always something to make it much more easier for me to really get the work going.
And that's when you start picking up some momentum, and then 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by, and you're living in a different world than you did when you first started. That's the fun part.
Oh yeah, I've learned so much about editing. I've learned so much about videos, quality of audios, and it's something that, like you said, again, YouTube University, man.
Totally.
And when I find someone that I do enjoy and they do have premium content, I do go invest in myself and purchase the content to improve and help me improve in whatever I feel that I'm lacking in.
Totally.
So it's something that has helped me. It's helped me so much with the fact that I've really gotten more involved in developing myself.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about throwing your passion, your soul into a business or a project or whatever. You become a better person. You become a different person. You become a wiser, more humble person. It's almost like you don't even recognize yourself from 2 or 3 years ago. And if you're doing it right, that's usually the case. It's like, man, you look at pictures of yourself from 2015 and who you were hanging out with or what you were doing and what was important to you, and it's totally different. Then it's just because the business is requiring you to level up. It's requiring you to learn new skills and to evolve. Otherwise, man, it's like, if you don't have that forcing function, decades can go by and you don't learn anything new. You just repeated the same year 10 times. You don't have 10 years of experience, So that's one of the things I love about throwing your soul, your everything you got into a business or a project is because of what you become.
So what made you feel like you wanted to get on podcasts and talk about the business?
I like to do podcast interviews as a hobby. They're fun for me. It goes back to, like we talked about, forcing functions.
Yeah.
Keeps me to where I got to be reading books. I got to be listening to different audiobooks or different podcasts or trying new things or honing my frameworks and philosophies on how to build a business. I'm not a super successful dude. I'm somewhere in the middle. And what somebody learns or takes away from an interview with me is that if that guy got to that point, where he's running GreenPal's doing $30 million a year in sales. If that guy got to that point, I can do it too, because there's nothing really particularly brilliant about me. I'm not elite at anything. I'm just very average at a lot of different things, and I stuck it out. And so I hope to in podcast interviews to kind of formulate those types of philosophies and how I think about those sorts of things. And so I kind of get more out of it than anything. And I like to spread my message.
So would public speaking be something you would be interested in doing? Would that be like a next step for you to talk about you growing your business, growing two businesses, and that now growing GreenPal and showing people like, hey, listen, I'm a regular guy. Like you said, you went to college for 1 year, you figured it wasn't for you, and you found something that you were good at. You built it up, sold it, and now you're filling a need because like there isn't somewhere where you can find quality lawn care people. And now you're
Totally.
helping you're helping small businesses, so you're providing a service to people that it saves them on going out and investing a lot of money on in advertisement and all that, when they can be on your app and the clients can come to them in that kind of way.
Totally, man. I've done a little bit of public speaking at a few conferences. I'm not a big conference guy. I don't really enjoy investing, the time to go to a conference, just because I think it's inefficient. But and it could be that I'm maybe I'm introverted in nature, and so I kind of don't gravitate towards that kind of thing. But I've done some. I like to, when I do public speak, I try to think about like I'm just speaking to one person, kind of like a podcast interview, and that usually helps me get in a state of flow and not worry about all of the stuff that you worry about when you're speaking in front of a crowd. I should probably do more of it. It would probably help me be a better leader. It would probably level me up in terms of forming my philosophies and thoughts on certain things about business building. And so I should probably do more of it. But I think because I don't go to a lot of conferences, I don't go to a lot of events, it's probably why I don't do a lot of live public speaking. But maybe I'll spend some more time on that in the future.
Like the last couple of years, me and my nephew, we've attended Podfest in Florida, and it was a wonderful experience, and I'm looking forward to it next month, towards the end of the month. And for me as a podcaster, it's amazing because I get to be in rooms with like-minded people. I get to
That's
be with
that's
people.
so huge.
Yeah, I get to
That's
be
so
in.
huge.
I get to connect with people that actually know the struggles of an independent podcaster.
And you can see one of the big things about networking and trying to make relationships with folks is you really want to like latch on to somebody who's done what it is you're trying to do, actually done or is doing what it is you're trying to do, so you can learn from them and help them also. And I think a lot of times, unless you go to a really specific thing like you were talking about, it's hard to find that, because we're in a world of a lot of kind of fake work and signaling around like the theater of success. And it's hard to find people who are actually doing and have done what it is you're trying to do. So that's great, man. You should probably, that's probably one of the best return on investments you can get is going and getting in a room with a bunch of guys and gals that are doing what it is you're trying to do.
And no, it's been amazing. I actually, like, we met through Podmatch, and Podmatch, Alex is changing the game with what he's doing with Podmatch.
Yeah,
He's
great
helping.
platform.
He's helping independent podcasters actually get monetized. She's showing them, like, one of the biggest things when I first started podcasting was one of the most difficult things as far as my podcast is finding guests.
Yeah,
So
good ones.
yeah, so finding some real quality guests. So Podmatch allows me to really put in what kind of what guests am I looking for, and it really, because it really has helped me in the last year take my podcast to another level, because the majority of my guests are from Podmatch,
Nice.
and it's really has helped me grow my podcast. I've had some wonderful guests on. The conversations are amazing, and just the fact, just the growth in this year, and in the year that I've really truly invested in Podmatch, because we do pay, as a podcaster, you pay $6 a month, but he has a tier where people who are paying as guests, they pay a commission towards hosts. I don't. They pay a commission towards hosts who interview certain guests.
Nice.
That's not my criteria for my show. Like, I don't care if I get paid commission or not. But I think it's a great thing that they're actually giving back to independent podcasters who don't get advertisers, who aren't making money, who are investing a lot of time in this, and don't see a penny. So to be able to have a platform that's helping you, one, solve an issue and finding guests, two, actually giving back to you when you interview certain guests, and they don't necessarily have to do that. And
Totally, man. I think no matter what you're doing, look for those things that can help you keep momentum going. Podmatch is great for me as somebody who likes to do podcasts, for you as a host. Keep the momentum going. Keep at least one interview on the books a week or something like that. And if you're blogging, if you're doing YouTube videos, if you're what TikTok videos or whatever you're doing, there's something like that for you that you can use to keep the consistency, use to keep the momentum going, because that momentum is key. It's so hard to get started again once you stop. Once you kind of like are slacking, it's so hard to keep going. It's kind of like you see somebody out jogging, or somebody who's a runner or who's training for a marathon. When they're at a stoplight, they're jogging in place. And yeah, they look goofy doing that, but what you don't understand is, like, it's hard, a lot harder on the knees, and it's a lot more painful if you stop at that stoplight and then start again. So, like, Podmatch is kind of like that for me, and I'm sure it is for you, to help keep some consistency, keep the momentum going, because the momentum's key with anything you're doing.
it's it's okay. So I record 3 shows a week,
Oh wow,
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I am booked through third week in April right now.
wow, incredible! And see, that's got to happen. I mean, that's on the books,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a nice kind of thing to hold you accountable to be consistent. It's like, hey, I can't cancel all this. I
Yeah.
gotta be there. I like that. It's a nice thing to force you to hit the reps, keep the
Mm-hmm.
reps in.
And that was one thing. And that was one thing when I heard, like, the average podcaster quits after like 7 episodes.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm like, all right. So once I got to 20, I was like, I got this.
Yeah,
And so I just today, as far as my audio, which was the first thing I originally started, I've released episode 214
wow,
today.
incredible.
And so, but now with me doing the 3 lives a week, and I'm releasing one audio episode a week, now I have, if I do take a break, I have so many episodes where I can afford to take a couple of weeks
Yeah,
off or whatever it is, because I'm doing 3 live episodes, so that gives me 3 audios that I can use. So
that's incredible. There's something called I heard this somewhere, the law of 100, and so it's no matter what you're doing, you just before you even start, uh, make a commitment. No matter what, you're going to do 100 of them. You're going to do it 100 times. And when I was starting the pro blog for GreenPal, the content resource hub that we have for pros, so anything like, how do you sharpen your lawnmower blades? How do you run your route the best way you can? How do you deal with a really annoying customer? How do you deal with dog poop in the backyard? All these different things that somebody who makes a living running a lawn care business deals with. I would personally build the content for it. And I hated doing it. I hated writing those blog posts. I mean, it was the worst thing. And I was always like procrastinating. And figuring out other things to do. And I thought, okay, no matter what, for the next 100 days, I'm going to write one of these every single day. And then after that, I'm going to make a decision. If I don't want to do anymore, I'm not going to do it anymore. But if it turns out that it was worth doing, I'm going to keep doing it. And so I did that for 3 months straight. And by the end of 3 months, I actually liked doing it. It became fun. And then we started seeing traffic come in. We started seeing lawn care companies sign up for the service to run their business for free off of these articles that I was making based on my experience in the landscaping business. And it was all because I committed to this law of 100. So whatever you're doing, commit to doing it 100 times and then reevaluate if you want to stick it out or not for 5 or 10 years. It's like you said, most podcasters quit after 7 episodes. Like if you would do it 100 times, you might figure out if you're onto something or not.
Yeah. And it's taken time for me to grow and develop the show. But like this honestly has been my best year.
Awesome.
Like I went from my first 2 years, 2.5 years. So I think I'm going on year 4 now. So my first 2.5 years, or whatever, my first 2 years, whatever, I probably had a total of, well, my first 3 years, because I started in March of 2020, and then on by December 2022, I was at a total of 8,000 downloads or whatever
Dang.
it was, right?
It's pretty good.
Yes, that's good. That was for 2 years. That was amazing.
Yeah.
This year, I've jumped up to 25, almost 26,000 downloads.
Wow, that's incredible, man. That's hard to do. Congratulations.
To go from 8,000 to 26, it just shows the dedication and the work that I've put into the podcast.
Yeah,
the
totally.
tools that I've added to help me. I use a tool, Cast Magic, where it transcribes the whole episode for me. It gives me a blog post. It gives me threads that I can use, that I can put on threads. It gives me quotes that it actually finds clips of quotes with the timestamps and everything that I can look up and post and share. So it's helped me really just be able to market the podcast much more better. Like
That's
I started
awesome.
with being able to use a blog on my website now. That's something I've added this year, was a blog post to go with each episode.
Right. And every year you get better and better. You level up. And if you got to 25K, you can get to 50. And if you get to 50, you can get to 100. You get to 100, you can get to 250. You know, it's just like setting those goals to almost like a video game, you know, where one level at a time, you don't worry about anything else, is how you over 10 years build something and wake up in a different place. You know, that's how we built GreenPal. We wanted 100 customers. Nothing else matters but 100 customers. That took 2 years. And then after that, we wanted to try to get to 500, then 1,000, then 5,000, then 10,000. Now we're at 300,000. We want to be at 1 million, you know, so it's still day one. I think that's the, like, a lot of times, like big successes and like superpowers just ultimately were just consistency.
Mhm.
They were just somebody who was consistent over a long period of time. So that's great, man. Congratulations to you. That's hard to do. 25,000 downloads is hard to do from nothing.
And yeah, and it's from I'm not a celebrity. I'm not, so it's actual people listening in and tuning in and listening to to the content I'm putting out. And
awesome.
So for me, it's like, even though I was happy when I got 500 downloads, that to me was, I was amazed, because I'm like, damn, 500 people have actually
pretty good.
Yeah, to me it was amazing, because
yeah,
I didn't have any experience in media. I didn't have any audio experience, video experience, any of that. This is just me wanting to challenge myself and make myself uncomfortable. And I had been wanting to do a podcast, and I was like, you know what? Let's do this. Let me stop making up excuses to why I shouldn't do the podcast, and let me just dive right into it. And so I got furloughed from work in 2020.
Oh, wow.
And so I was home, and the wife had a honey to-do list out the door for me. and so I was like, man, I need something for me. I need something
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me
yeah.
to do. And so I started podcasting, and it started with 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
First
Nice.
episode was 7 minutes, and now it's grown to where I sometimes I do hour shows. I've one of my earlier episodes, probably like episode 17, 18, is I had to split it into a two-parter because the person I interviewed, this was before I really actually learned how to control an interview. We spoke for 3 hours.
Oh, wow. Joe Rogan style.
For 3 hours, and I'm like, I will never do that again.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It's an amazing experience because he had an amazing story. He had suffered an accident. He was in India somewhere, and he ran. He was on a scooter. He was in an accident. It propelled him, and he
Oof.
ran into some big blocks in the block or something, and just destroyed his face.
Oh,
And he came back from that, and you can still see his face a little bit deformed,
mm,
and so for him to share his story
yeah,
and talk about him getting into fitness and the struggles, to the mental health struggles he went through and everything. It was it it was the episode that really made me want to continue to do my show. Like,
yeah, man, that
all right,
sounds inspiring.
yeah. So it was just, and then at first, and the thing now, at first I was interviewing everyone. I was interviewing friends. I was interviewing,
Yeah, just to get the reps in.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then within the last year and so, last year and a half, I've really focused on more of a niche, more of more having of entrepreneurs, coaches, people with inspiring stories, and just focused on those type of guests. And again, it's been the best year and a half
that's incredible.
with the guests that I've had.
That action of continuing to get the reps in, that produces information as to how you're going to do it better, different, how you're going to find your niche. A lot of people just want to skip that and they want to go like to the good part, and you just can't. You have to get the reps in. You have to
Mhm.
figure out what the heck it is you're doing, and then you arrive at figuring out what it is that you want to specialize in, and how you want to do it your way. And if you, I think if no matter what people are starting, if they can think about it like that, action produces information. I know this is not going to be a huge success off of a one interview or 5 interviews or 100, but I'll know more. I'll know more after I
Yeah.
do that. And so I like that. I like that story. I've never, I don't have a podcast. So I've oftentimes wondered what the early days look like starting one. So I appreciate
Would
you sharing that.
would you consider doing a podcast or no?
For me, no, I don't
You
think
just like, you
so.
like the other side of it. You like the other
Yeah,
side
I
of
like
it.
I like sharing my story on how we built GreenPal, how we got it to where it is, and honestly, GreenPal is my baby. It requires all of my effort and my intensity. I think if like I read a quote the other day: if you chase two rabbits, you get none, and you don't get either. And so I think business is a lot like that. If you're not focused on one thing and keeping the main thing, then I think you can wake up in a world where you're doing too much and nothing is working. And so I'm scared to death about that, like because 35,000 contractors depend on our platform to make their living. So I take that seriously. It's important for us to keep this thing healthy and vibrant because these folks depend on it to pay their bills.
Yeah, awesome. Um, Brian, this has been great, man. This has been an awesome time. But now is the time where you get the solo screen, you get to plug away, let everybody know where they can find the website, the apps, everything.
Awesome. Right on. So if you have a yard and you need to get your grass cut, just go to greenpal.com and you can get hooked up with a great lawn mowing service in a matter of minutes. And anybody who wants to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. Bryan M. Clayton is where you can find me on Instagram. And yeah, shoot me a DM. Let me know how you're doing on your business.
Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate you being a guest.
My pleasure. Well, thank you for having me on. This has been awesome.
I love it, man. I love having these conversations, man. Being able to speak to people like yourself who's been able to find us something and provide a service, and that's what people who become entrepreneurs at first don't realize is that you need to find something where you can serve the people,
Totally.
and
That's
and
what it all
and
boils down to.
yeah, and you found it. You found something that's helped, like you said, 35,000 lawn care specialists depend on you guys.
That's
So
right.
I commend you guys. Continue the great work. Hopefully you get to 50,000 in the next couple of months, man. Just keep growing and growing and growing.
I appreciate that. I hope you get to 250,000 downloads this next year.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I hope so too. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and I'll just chat a little bit off the air. So,
Right on.
all right. All right, everybody. Thanks to everybody who stopped by. Facebook user, I don't know who that is, but I appreciate you. Shout out to Ben Sutherth III of the BS3 Network for stopping by. You can catch us on the BS3 Network every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. Catch us on Real Wise TV, Stuck in My Mind Podcast YouTube channel. Also, check out the podcast on all major platforms. Download us on Spotify, Apple, Google. If you tune in on Apple, leave us a review. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J, love you guys. Shout out to the boss lady, appreciate and love you. And as always, oh, shout out to all the essential workers out there. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.